Thank you. Please. Thank you. Nice. I can't believe that.
Surprising, I know.
Okay.
Fucking rebel.
Okay, so we were talking about injuries, and I would like to get your insights on injuries. So I would like to hear from you. When I talk about injuries, I'm talking about non-contact injuries. Because if someone hits you with a rod, there is nothing you can do about it. You're going to sustain an injury. So in terms of non-contact injuries, what do you think are the main risk factors?
Torsional?
Sorry?
Torsional?
Torsional, that's meaning what?
Like where, say, your legs, or you're extending at the knee and your tibia is rotating.
So you're talking about the stress direction?
Yes, exactly.
About an X.
Okay, so that's one aspect of it, and you have already provided the example. What else?
Magnitude.
Frequency, when basically there are a lot of ground reaction forces.
Frequency? Great. Yep. And someone mentioned magnitude.
Right.
Okay, just don't get too excited. So you have frequency. You said frequency in regards to if it is too often, does that not allow the tissue to recover? Then you will lead that to fail sooner or later. Yeah, that's what you're thinking. Yeah. So from this, I would just like to extract a bit of thought. So if frequency is a risk factor, that means that long sessions where the likelihood of overloading the tissue repeatedly is increased, then are a risk factor. Say, I know in just because I know that from a fact. In Taekwondo, there's two ways of competing. There is a sparring, and there is a ballet, not a ballet, the pumset is patterns competition. They are really good, but they don't fight. They show patterns. And the volume of training they do is in the order of 6 to 7 hours a day. So obviously, those are long sessions that aim to perfect a given technique. So which means that they are repeating the same kick over and over and over again, which on this account should lead them to sustain injuries because of the repetitious nature of it, the high frequency and the duration of it. So in any case, if there is someone that is likely to sustain an injury due to the frequency, we should look at the duration of the training sessions. How long they go for, the duration of it on itself might be a risk factor. And obviously, the number of sessions per week, if they are every day, if the training is repetitious as opposed to varying training, then the risk of injury is increased on this account. Someone mentioned the magnitude. Georgia, what would you say about the magnitude of as being a risk factor? You don't know? You're happily talking there. I can hear you. That disappoints and breaks my heart. Okay, so magnitude, the reason why the magnitude could be a risk of injury is that it can easily overpass or be greater than the ultimate strength value of the tissue that could sustain injury, and that's one way in which, by the factor of magnitude, injury can occur. It can occur as a sudden onset, that is, if the magnitude is far too great for the tissue to support, or can become as a stress fracture when the magnitude is very close to the ultimate strength point, which in the absence of recovery will inevitably bring the ultimate strength lower and lower until they two meet and failure occurs. Melanie, you mentioned rate. Can you please explain that?
How fast?
Yeah, how fast the force gets applied.
Sorry?
Quick? Slow?
How fast the force gets
How fast?
applied.
Yeah, so the speed of the loading is an important factor. So if you talk of, say, landings, when you have landing, obviously landing from a higher height will carry with it an increased rate of loading upon landing, and that has to be counteracted by a proper landing technique. And can you please tell me what is a proper landing technique? Sorry? Bend your knees enough to absorb the impact? What else? Yeah, bend the hip and knee.
Doesn't it depend on like height? Like
Yes?
and the movement that you're doing?
Yes, so I'm asking for you to tell me what's a good landing technique.
It's going to be different to if you're straight.
Pardon me?
If you're spinning, it's going to be straight.
If you're spinning, you need to land straight? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's going to be different to if you're...
Ah, yeah. So I'm eager to hear what your inputs are. Okay, so a good landing technique, would be the one that absorbs sufficiently the impact. And that absorption comes from having actually developed the strength to sustain that landing. If you are weak, probably you are putting yourself at risk. If you are strong enough, particularly in eccentric nature, then you have better chances of withstanding that. So, if you have someone that is that has sustained landing injuries, a good way of rehabbing them is to provide them or equip them with enough eccentric strength for them to actually get into the activity again. So we really need to look at what's happening. Someone mentioned the other day having proper base of support. Yeah, that's true. If it is narrow, then the force is more concentrated. If it is wider, then there is a better distribution of it. So all that. Yes, you were saying something.
How about the valgus? Shouldn't it be like too much valgus valve?
Or virus.
Yes, can you add anything on that? Because that's exactly what should be monitored for. The amount of valgus that you have on landing.
Or virus.
Sorry?
Valgus or virus, because don't they both sort of counteract each other?
What sort of tissues would be subject to more stress on a valgus landing?
PCL,
And if it is virus?
LCL, ACL.
Yes.
The
So
other.
you really need to consider for it. And how would you minimize the risk of valgus or virus?
Making sure the knees don't bow in or bow out.
Strengthening of the vasti. Yeah? Vasti and gluteus medius. Luis, thank you. Okay,
Raoul, is magnitude also mean intensity as well? So when you're talking about the frequency, like training for hours on end, if obviously and talking about the other people training for a shorter period of time, the volume level is different, but the intensity. So if you're practicing a singular technique, it's different to sparring.
yes.
So magnitude is intensity.
Yeah, the magnitude is intense.
Okay.
Okay, just listen to this for a second. If you can be quiet, it would be great. You are I do understand you are tired. That's fine. It has been a pleasure for me to have you this semester. I acknowledge that I could have done a better job. It's always the case as your lecturer. However, I would also say that you could have done a better job as a student. That's always the case. I can only ask you for you to do well in your final exams and actually do well in the remaining of your degree. So I will see you whenever I see you.
Okay.